Welcome. You're listening to How I Did That, a storytelling podcast. Let's jump into today's episode.
I guess I'll just start with tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself to the audience, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, my name's Armando Ortega, and you want an introduction. So I'm a first-generation Mexican-American here in the United States. My parents came over, when my brother was about 8 years old. So I've got an older brother and a younger sister. And growing up, it was tough, as any sort of, I guess, immigrant life would have you. And I always saw my mom and my dad hustling, trying to figure out how to make money. And so business for me was just sort of second nature to me. And I just picked that up really, really quickly. And so I knew I always wanted to do some type of business. And so here we are today. There's a lot of info in between, but here I am today, and I'm the co-founder of a company called ToDoolie. And what we do is we pair up homeowners around their areas with some sort of student, which we call a helper, to go ahead and just help them out with any task that they need. So if you don't want to do your mulching, if you don't want to do the weeding that day, if you've got a garage that you need to clean up, a condo, an apartment that needs to, be cleaned up or moved out, or if you need some furniture to move, we're here to help. So that's what I've been building.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Again, thank you for joining me. I'm so honored and so excited to interview you today. Let's go back to high school, beginning of university. What were you planning on doing? Because you said business was always in your mind. Did you immediately get into university, or did you get into, I don't know, entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I was pretty much a very weird oddball in high school. I did a lot of different things. Do you know what JROTC is? The Junior ROTC program?
No.
It's I forget what it stands for. It's Junior Recruitment Officer Training Corps, I believe. And so what it is, it's a program to instill discipline into I guess lack for better words there, discipline in people who grow up in the hood. And so it is sort of an introductory program to what the military would be like. So I would wake up in the morning at 6:45, and I would go and I would drill. So I'd basically spin around these rifles and stuff like that, and we would march in unison and stuff like that. And then I'd go off to first period. But entrepreneurship was never really the thing immediately on my mind. I sort of had a guidance, and what I told myself in high school was that I'm going to learn as much as I could about money. As much as I could about business, about tech and health, because those seem to be the four areas that that overlap with just so many different industries. And I knew that that's where I wanted to go. I didn't really have a clear idea, but graduating high school was a little bit differently. So let me talk to you about with some of the things that I've done in high school. So I played tennis, played a lot of soccer. As Mexicans do. I worked a lot of jobs from when I was 15, and I used to do parkour, martial arts. I got into a lot of different things, and then I soon realized all the things that I didn't want to do. I worked as a garbage man at one point in time. I worked at Domino's. I worked at H&M. I babysat. I did tax returns for a person. I was a lawyer's assistant at one point in time. And so I've got this extensive history of all the things to not do, which I guess sort of helped me towards the end of high school when I realized oh my God, I can't hold on to a job for longer than 2 years. What's wrong with me? And I found out that there's really nothing wrong with me. I just don't like having other people tell me what to do. And I think that their direction is, not dumb, but I don't necessarily agree with the way that they probably manage everything, just because I like efficiency. I like things being run very smoothly. I like getting results. And so, coming out of high school, I did not become an entrepreneur. I actually joined the Army, and I signed an 8-year contract with them. And that was interesting.
So did this have anything to do with all that discipline, those drills that you were doing in high school, and then you kind of went to the Army? Did this have anything to do with that?
Well, I mean, I had like an introduction into it, and they have like a summer camp type of thing where you go up north to Alpena, Michigan, and you basically have a bunch of it's like an Air Force base, and so they it's not called a drill sergeant, it's called a tactical sergeant. And so you'd have like a bunch of like tac sergeants screaming and yelling at you, making you do push-ups and stuff like that, and yelling in your face. And you got to do a lot of like cool, fun activities, like ride ATVs and like drill and do like combat water survival type things and rappel off of like towers with like nothing but a rope and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun, and it definitely influenced some of it, but my mom was not happy with the idea of me going to the military.
Then where was that bridge between everything you did in high school and you're like, I don't want to do this, but military for like 8 years too, right? The contract.
Yeah, that was like an interesting point in my life. So I graduated high school, and my mom was like, mijito, te quiero mucho, pero no te puedo pagar la escuela, which basically translates to, I love you so much, but I can't pay for your college. So, and being a person who's born here in America and having immigrant parents, the first thought that they have is, you are definitely going to get a college education. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But we have no way of like supporting you in that sort of way. So I took out some loans during college. So I went to Wayne State University, and I graduated like pretty well in my class, considering the environment that I came from, and me thinking that am I allowed to curse on this podcast? Okay, me thinking that I'm like hot shit. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna take on 18 credits for 2 consecutive semesters. And around that time, that's like I had some family trouble and stuff like that, and so I was homeless. So I was commuting from school with no home to go back to, and no real way to pay for university, but knowing that I had this sort of like weird pressure that I needed to complete it. But needless to say, I failed. I failed both semesters like horrendously. And that's when I started looking at like other options. I worked so many different types of jobs that I said, well, do I want to go work at H&M? Do I want to go work at Domino's? Do I want to make this small amount of money? And what would the result be? And ultimately I was like, well, the Army pays for your schooling. I can make money. Like I definitely don't have to like, maybe like do active. If I didn't want to, I could probably choose between like reserves or National Guard. And so I told my mom about it. She was not happy. She was not happy at all. She said that I will never enlist in the Army. And of course I did it behind her back. Sorry, Mom. And it was honestly the best decision I've ever made, just because of everything that I learned. I think I spent a little bit too much time in the military, because that's like right around the time where I started building my business. So to answer your question, what seemed to be the bridge there? I think it's my mom telling me no, and I hate it when people tell me no, and so I did it anyways because I needed to pay for school.
Oh, I see it. So to get this timeline correct, you did go to Wayne State for a little bit.
Yeah.
But you decided to enlist in the military.
Yep, I graduated high school in 2011, and then I took 2 semesters at Wayne State, 2011 to 2012. Mm-hmm. That winter 2012 semester, the 2011 September, right? Mm-hmm. And then in 2012, like the beginning of 2012 is where I was like, I need to sign my contract. And so I did. March 28th, 2012, I enlisted into the United States Army National Guard.
Wow. So when you said they pay for your education, are you allowed to pursue anything in college and they will cover you as long as you're still a part of the Army?
Nope. That's actually a marketing tactic I later learned, is that they say that they pay for your college, but you actually have to wait a year to reap those benefits. And so, and it depends on the level of enlistment that you're in, right? So if you're in the National Guard, they give you a stipend for school. If you're in the reserves and you've been active duty for more than 90 days, then they give you what is called the Montgomery GI Bill, which is equivalent to about $38,000 of tuition reimbursement. And then if you're in the active army, you automatically get that because you're active. And of course, you're going to do more than 90 days of active duty work. So that's something that they don't tell you.
Interesting. I always saw them. Did you get recruited from Wayne State's campus?
Yeah. So I mean, that's definitely a thing. At Wayne State, so drop the J in JROTC, and you have the equivalent of the university equivalent to what I did in high school, which is ROTC. So basically, what that is a program, right? You take classes to enlist as an officer. So you'll sign your contract after you graduate university. And if you have a bachelor's degree, you're eligible to become an officer if you go through their officer candidate school, is what they call it, which is a program where they teach you, how to what like regular Army things they would be teaching you, and then you sign for, I think it's like 4 years or 6 years after you're done with university.
So the people who always used to come to Wayne State's campus, those are different than like the actual Army.
Yeah, than the active Army. Yeah, but you'll probably get like a good mixture of both, because like the recruitment is just like the number one thing that you can do in the military, right? So you have what is called a military occupational specialty, your MOS, and I decided to be an infantryman, and one of the occupations that you could also do is recruiting. So it's just more time, more money. You enlist like people into the armed forces.
So then during those, well, it hasn't been 8 years.
It's been 8 years. Yeah, I just got out. Yeah, it's 2020.
Oh my God, you're right. I keep thinking you graduated in my cohort with high school. Like you graduated around the time I graduated high school for some reason. Tell us about your time there. That must have been a long 8 years.
It was a very, very, very long 8 years. If I could, so if like, I'm not sure what Didi, your podcasters believe in, or what Didi like you believe in, but say for example, if I got reincarnated and they said you have to go through the military all over again, would you do it? Oh man, that's a tough question. But I think in the end I would. I think what I learned from the military and my time there, in the beginning, it was just so cool. I mean, like I was very against like weapons and stuff like that. I wasn't like anti Second Amendment, but I was like anti me personally, having weapons. And so when I got in, I found a new hobby, I guess, like a different perspective on weapons. And while it is, it's a weapon, right? So it's used to like do harm. But I found the most therapeutic type of way of just relaxing and meditating, which was very odd to me. Aside from what the byproduct of a weapon is, what it could potentially be used for as an anger management tool and as a way of like really calming your nerves. I really like that aspect of it. But of course, we don't live in a perfect world. So my time in the military spent was it's been very much like the underdog, I would say. It just like my life and just like my business and just like I think the theme of my life has been like underdog, because I was Mexican, and so you meet a lot of different cultures, a lot of diversity in the military, a lot of people who have never seen another Mexican or another Black person, and so you're sort of expected and told that you don't see color. The only color that you're allowed to see is green, because of our uniforms. And so navigating what that type of environment would look like, being trained in Georgia, being shuffled around, all around the United States, being shuffled to Latvia and Denmark and stuff like that, and getting to see all these different types of experiences really like made me a more holistic person, a more aware person. I have structure that I can fall back on. It may not be structure that I like, like waking up at 5 a.m. and working out and getting after the day, but it works. It's just been a system that's been honed in for thousands and thousands of years since humankind has been just been in combat. And so what I think you can take away from it is a completely different perspective on like how civilians would normally live their lives, and then how you could live your life and also be a civilian but be a better person on top of it.
Let me see. Was there any... Actually, I have two questions. First, for people who do want to get enlisted into like the military for 8 years, or how is 8 years like the default contract?
No, I've seen people do like as early as 3 years. My contract was sort of standard in order to make sure that I got funding for school. So that was the minimum.
Okay.
I was very devastated because I had heard like 4 years and like maybe 2 inactive, right? And so I had 6 years active, 2 years inactive, where if anything had happened, like any kind of thing would go down, they would be able to rely on me to respond and say, yes, I'm answering the call to war.
Were there any really big surprises that
Yeah.
we're not aware of?
Yeah, all the hatred. There's so in my culture it's called machismo. I'm not sure what the equivalent would be here in America because English isn't my first language. So I think the equivalent to something like that would be the sort of alpha male dominance, like I'm completely gonna overtake you sort of mentality, and you have to listen to what I say because I'm a superior type of mentality is something that it's hard to get used to, right? But what on the flip side to that, right? And it's really all about perspective, I think, at the end of the day, right? Like as long as nobody's like harming you, and as long as you can develop a thick skin, and then you take your perspective and you go, how can I use this in a positive light? I definitely see where people are coming from, where they have like bad experiences because you're having someone who's yelling at you, telling you what to do. And not everyone can take orders, right? Not everybody can like, have the discipline or even the self-discipline to execute on those orders. You may feel like a dog at times, and that's perfectly a-okay. Like your feelings are not invalid because of how you feel. But what happens is that nobody's there who cares to validate your feelings or your emotions. And so you have to come up with a sort of altruistic ego, like a person that says, I don't care. Like this does not affect me. Like, so what if you're making me do physical work? And on the flip side of that, right? Like what comes from it, from somebody telling you like you have to do this specific way at this specific time and on my command, what it builds is that, and I'm going to get a little meta with you, is that, so the way that I thought about it was like, I'm no longer me. Like, I don't think about me as me anymore. Like, I think about me as like a third person, and my body is like the sort of driving force to get the things that I want done. So I literally tell myself what to do like a boss. And if you don't think about stuff like that in that sort of perspective, of course you're going to have, a very negative experience, because, who's this person? Like, why are they telling me what to do? Like, I tell me what to do. And it's a very egotistical type of thing to think about. But if you become more aware and you can remove yourself from it, and you don't think of yourself as like me, but you think of yourself as like this third party, and you hire yourself, like I ask myself every day, like, would I hire myself? And if people have that sort of perspective, I think the experience in the military goes a long way. Like you come out as a better person. But if you don't, your ego gets burned, and what can I say? Like, you're just too soft.
Wow. So the entire training, it's not that they kind of manipulated you to get you in, but it's just that they're making you very resilient. So if you can't stand like all the things you're saying, how do I word this?
If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen.
I'd say then you'll get cut.
Yeah, I think it's like the organization is so large, right? Like I think people think about the army differently, and they go, oh, it's like a part of the government. But at the end of the day, like Just being an entrepreneur has really opened my eyes to looking at everything that people do as like an organization, and there's like a business model to it, right? So like at the end of the day, there are objectives and results that the military is trying to achieve, and if they don't achieve it, then they have to, adapt. And so, giving the stipend to school, and like, showing off like how cool it is to be in the military. It's all marketing, at the end of the day. And it's no fault to theirs, right? Like, how else are you going to tell people,
Right.
hey, I exist?
Right. That's true. That's good. That's a great perspective to hear, though. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I was just curious about how 8 years is a long time to condense into 15 minutes, but
Yeah.
really well. And so now I want to move on to like after. Okay, so you said you just finished in the military, but
Yeah.
when did ToDoolie come into the picture? Because now
2015.
Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe to bring us on that journey.
Yeah, definitely. So let me think. Man, that was I feel like that's so long ago to like where I am now. Let's see, 2015. So it's Festifall, and Festifall at Wayne State University, for people who don't know, is basically a sort of like, hey, these are all the clubs and organizations at Wayne State University that you can sign up and try. And so at the time I was doing breakdancing, again, one of my many hobbies, and I got into hip hop a lot. So that was sort of my outlet while I was, in the hood. And so I'm representing like the breakdancing club at Wayne State University, and I'm I'm riding on my longboard, and I'm going up and down the different tables that are set up, and I come across this thing that is called DTX. And me thinking like, oh, I'm probably going to join the military after university, and I stumbled upon this table. I meet this woman named Betsy Creedon from Techtown. And bless her heart, she's so sweet. She comes in and she tells me that she'll pay me to start my business. And I guess I never really like thought about it, like, oh, like that sort of idea in the back of my head, that sort of like thing that like has always been there, growing up with like, seeing my mom build businesses, is like tingling in the back of my head again. And I go, you know what? I'm gonna sign up for this. I'm gonna see like, what this would look like. Granted, it's like 3 months out into, or sorry, it's next year, right? So she's recruiting for people the previous year before to join this like cohort of people. And I go, why not? I'm going to try it out. I'm going to sign up. She's going to pay me. I'm going to start a business. It's going to be great. I don't know what it is yet, but I'll figure it out.
This lady, so Festival, all the different clubs at Wayne State, I know like they come out, they have their little tables, but usually it's for clubs that are currently going on, right? And people are like, okay, yeah, you can come join us. They're started by students. So how did this random lady come in where she's like, I'm going to pay you to create this business? It's usually just student created clubs that are there, right?
Yeah. So I think this is one of those things that Wayne State has partnered with, and I know some things, so I'm not going to like, I don't know what I can disclose or can't disclose in terms of like their working relationship between each other, but I know that Wayne State University and Techtown do have very close working ties with each other. And at the time, it's not called this anymore, but it's called back then it was called the Blackstone Launchpad. And it was basically a resource for students at Wayne State who didn't know how to start their own business, where they could go and talk to entrepreneurs who would point them in the right direction. And it's an available resource now. And if you have any ideas or things like that you want to do to start your own business, I would definitely check them out. I'm not sure what they're called now, but Techtown would graciously help you as a sort of oncoming ramp into entrepreneurship.
Oh, I see. Okay. I wanted to get that clarified because I wasn't sure where this person just came in and like, I'm going to give you money for this. Because I've never seen that when I was at Festival. I've never seen something like that. That's really cool. Okay. So, so she recruited you in 2015 fall.
Yeah. And
then she wanted you to be joining in 2016.
Yeah. So the story gets like really, really interesting. So I'm rattling my head around like what the problem, what kind of problem I want to solve in the future. What kind of business do I want to build?
Did you have a business idea?
So I didn't have to have my business idea right then and there in front of her, but what I did have to do was, in the application, I needed to state what the problem was, what I think the solution is, and what kind of company I'm going to build around that.
Okay.
So I've got about 3 months before this application is due, and so I'm rattling my head around like, well, what kind of problem do I want to solve? Like, I never really thought about it. And so I think at the time I was like tutoring people at Wayne State University, and I'm tutoring specifically mathematics. So I'm tutoring calculus, trigonometry, and stuff like that. I'm helping people out and sort of doing like data mining kind of thing for like alumni. So I've got like a spreadsheet. It's like 2,000 people deep. I'm like trying to contact them. I'm like, it's just a bunch of like math stuff. And let's see. So I'm going around the office and I'm asking like all the staff there, like, what kind of problems are you facing? Like, and I'm writing them down in this like tiny memo pad. And I'm going around and I'm asking my friends as well, like, well, what kind of problems do you face? And I was searching for like maybe a good month and a half before this one guy like finally comes up to me. I was doing life insurance, and I was also doing like Roth IRAs, so like just accounting stuff and stuff like that for like
Was this, like, the
Primerica.
thing that you were in at the time?
Yeah. I was so this was like a couple of years before. I think this was like 2013. I was like trying to figure. I was a salesman, so I would sell life insurance, other sales jobs that I've done, like I've sold vacuums and stuff like that, sponsorships for children. Ran out of money, had to go back into the military for like training and stuff like that to like make more money. It's a whole other thing. But I meet my boss, the one who I reported to doing during where I would sell life insurance. So my boss comes up to me and he's like, I have this cousin and I want you to meet him. I want you to go and talk to him because I know that you're a software developer and you make websites, right? And I go, yeah, sure, why not? Like, I'll go talk to him. I was not good at making websites at the time. And I was like, yeah, well, maybe, it could be a potential stream of income or like something could come out of it. So I meet this guy. This guy looks like he goes to festivals all the time. This guy looks like he smokes weed all the time. And I was right. But he had this great idea. And this idea was putting festival and concert tickets on a payment plan. Now, of course, that's what SeatGeek is, and that's what Game Time is, and all these other like competitors before they came out. We had what we called in the company Vita Ticket. So Vita in Latin means life. So it was your life ticket towards like these events. And so I was going to pursue that. I was like, man, if I could buy, your $400 front row Rihanna tickets, and you could do like $100 for just an installment, and I just take a little bit off the top, then our thesis, our mission statement there was, we could give true fans an opportunity to experience their favorite artists. And so I was like, yeah, this seems like a problem that I would definitely try to tackle. And I knew it was going to be capital intensive. So a lot of the time I would go and, it's called scalping. So I would scalp tickets, which is totally illegal. But, you kind of have to do some like illegal things in the beginning of your business to try to get it off the ground, especially when you don't really have any money. And I would go and I would just buy tickets, and then I would, make a spreadsheet. I'd go to my friends and I'd be like, who do you want to see this month? Some people would say, I want to go see Bruno Mars. I want to go see 21 Pilots. I want to go see, Aventura, whatever it may be. And I would go and I would buy those tickets for them and sell them back the tickets at a payment plan.
That's so interesting. So this was before these other websites came out?
Yeah, before all these platforms came out.
I see. And then, so did you have a website for this? Or were
No.
you doing it on your spreadsheet?
No, everything was just manual spreadsheets. I would call people. I would go and collect money like I'm basically like I'm a pimp. But like, there are problems with with putting people on a payment plan, especially college students who are, moving between job to job, and sometimes some of them didn't have the money, and the date would be coming up, and I would have all of these tickets that I would have to, like, I would lose money if I didn't sell them. So what do you do?
Right. Wait, so was this the plan that you pitched to Betsy?
Oh yeah, I talked to Jared. I said, let's make a founder agreement right then and there. After we had a few beers, a lot of shots, and fleshed out what the business model could potentially look like. And he said, okay, we'll go do DTX. I did the video. We signed the founders agreement. We filled out the application together, and off we went. Vita Ticket was born for $25 and registered to the state of Michigan.
What year was that in?
That was 2016.
2016.
2015 is when we registered Vita Ticket. So Vita Ticket LLC, and then 2016 we did the DTX program.
Okay, so was there one other person like co-founding this with you?
Yeah, actually. So her name was so my co-founder's name, the brainchild, if you will, the guy who came up with the idea, his name was Jared Stoddard. Love that guy. And then we brought on Hala Ibrahim, who did so she's from Toronto. No, she's from Windsor.
Oh, okay.
And she would commute because she went to Wayne State, and I needed someone else to help me with the finances because it was so capital intensive. And so we brought her on because she also applied, but she couldn't find a team. Mm-hmm. And you needed to have at least 2 people or more, but no more than 5.
Is this company still active, or how long did it go on for if it's not?
Went on to from summer of 2016 till about the winter. The
winter of 2016.
Yeah.
Okay. Was this because there were so many roadblocks in the way? Like you realized subscription with college students wasn't working, or what happened?
Yeah. So what I found out, and so during the program, I basically had to interview 100 people to see whether or not if this was an actual problem before you spend the next 5 years wasting all of that time, all of that money, trying to solve a problem that may or may not exist out in the world. And what I found out was you actually have to win contracts with the venues. So there's a sort of a system here, right? You have the musician, you have their booking agent, you have the venue, and the booking agent is sort of the middleman between the venue and the artist. And the venue will say, well, I might be able to fill X amount of tickets here, and you sort of agree on a price point and try to get people in there. And every venue is going to be different. And if you want to be the software, the sort of service provider that provides the tech to sell these tickets, well, you got to talk to the venue, and you got to talk to the artist, and you got to talk to the booking manager, and you have to make sure that everything is solid. And those are just huge barriers to entry, because if you don't win those contracts, who are you? You know what I mean? And you got to try to book as many different types of art or tickets from many different genres of artists. So who do you pick? How do you tackle this? So I didn't realize that, you had the event managers, you had, the venue, the artists. It was just so much work. And, we had pivoted the company so many times that we sort of just kept pivoting into a circle. One of the things that we pivoted into was, and this was just based on all the data that we collected from just asking people, without indirectly telling people what our company is and what it does, is so we found out that a lot of people flake. Friends would just flake on plans and stuff like that. So going out to bars and doing this and that. And so what we wanted to do to sort of have an edge over the competition was allow people to plan their events together with their friends, but at the same time they would get a QR code, a Snapchat QR code type of thing, or a WhatsApp or a Facebook, and so if you had that specific QR code, you would be basically treated like a VIP around the bars that you would go to, around the clubs that you would go to. You get discounts and stuff like that. And then the way that we wanted to build virality with something like that was that you could invite other people into your own social circle, but that you only get the discount if you can successfully plan an event with your friends and they show up.
Well, that's smart to stop people from flaking.
Yeah.
Was this connected to the subscription business, like the concert subscription? This was all like one thing?
Yeah, so that was like that was like eventually what we decided that we were going to try to work out. My co-founders didn't like the idea.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to do that anymore, and so they kind of left. We all had like a phone call. It's like we're just spinning our heads trying to figure out what to do with our business, and towards the end of that conversation, everyone was like, well, it doesn't seem like we really care about the problem that we're trying to solve. We don't really like the business model and the direction of the company. We're all going to leave.
Oh, because you just kept pivoting ideas.
So that was very devastating.
Close it down.
Yeah.
After that business, which was pretty short-lived, right? It opened and closed within the same year. What happened after that in terms of your entrepreneurial journey?
I cried. I was like very depressed for like 3 months.
I mean, you probably put all your like heart and soul into getting this to work.
I did, yeah. That's the caveat, is that you can't get too attached to your baby, because it could be an ugly baby.
And then where'd you go from there?
So ToDoolie, my CEO Sergio and his co-founder Jose, they did DTX, the same program that I was in, at the same time. And I knew of Sergio and Jose back in 2011. Now, mind you, this is like 2016, right? So I knew these guys like 2011 through a Latino program where like all the Latino people would get together and like, I guess talk about like being Latino. And they were doing ToDoolie. And things just seemed to be going so well for them. I hated them with such a passion. And only just because they were doing so well, and so that was sort of my benchmark, was like to just do better than them. And lo and behold, when my company had unfortunately shut down, Sergio and Jose had invited me because they wanted a technical founder on the team. Now, of course, me being the person that I am, of course, I said yes, because I wanted to make sure that I did something related to business. I didn't want to give up the whole like dream and aspirations of like owning my own business. So I swallowed my pride. They interviewed me and 30 other developers, and they just, I somehow got the job. I'm still in disbelief that I got it, and I'm pretty sure there was people way more qualified than I am, who could have filled that position, but they saw something in me and decided to go with me instead.
Oh, wow. So, okay. So you didn't initially come up with this as your idea, but you were able to join on the team. So it was the three of you.
Yeah, it's 3 Latino founders now. So.
And this was in 2017 then?
Yeah, 2017. So I signed a founders agreement. When did I sign that? I think it's been like 3 years. Yeah, so January 1st, 2017, I'm hired into ToDoolie.
What has that been like? I guess, what role did you start out as, and how has that progressed, and what do you do in the company now?
Yeah.
How have you been able to impact the community with it?
Yeah, it's honestly been a roller coaster. Oh man, what do I touch on first? So what I did in the beginning, and I wear a lot of different hats in the company, and I still do, right? So my bread and butter is, right, going back to what I said that I wanted to make sure that I always educated myself on, was health, tech, money, and business. So I'm sort of fulfilling that, like, those 4 pillars that I've always wanted in high school. And they brought me on as a technical co-founder, so they wanted a website, nothing fancy, like it could even be like a Squarespace website, but they also wanted to start building the product, so like an app where so the idea at first was, we're gonna invoice, we're gonna be an invoicing solution. That's it. Like, gas stations don't, like, they, like, people pencil in at gas stations, like, oh, I clocked in at this time, I clocked out at this time. So we wanted to make an app to make it easier to just invoice all of that. That was the idea. And so I'm trying to build the product and teaching myself how to code as quickly as I can to just hurry up and try to get something out there. And of course, like I said, they interviewed 30 developers, all well overqualified, and could probably have done this in a much sooner timeline. But they wanted to enjoy the whole process of building the business. They wanted culture. They wanted, someone who was like really fun to hang around and build something really cool. And so eventually, I'm going to fast forward, like a few months. But eventually we found somebody to help us out, Darren Riley, great guy, love that guy, to help us build out an MVP of the product. And so you would type in a URL. It's what's called a web app. So you type in a URL, you log in, you clock out. And a lot of what we did was manual work. The idea came from Sergio, by the way. He did odd jobs all around his community, and he was able to pay his way through college through doing what essentially would become ToDoolie, which is a great story. He's basically a biomedical physicist who was going to go do reconstructive surgery for kids in third world countries who have clefts. And how he got from being a reconstructive surgeon to the CEO of a business that helps kids make money is like, yeah, that's such a large, I don't know what to call that.
Whole other story.
Yeah, whole other
podcast episode.
Whole other podcast that you should definitely interview him on, because he would be a great person to interview. But we got like some sort of product out. We graduated DTX. Well, they graduated DTX. They went on to start up Boost. Eventually they would hire me on. Actually, correction. I'm sorry. I started in 2018 because they did start up Boost. It took a little bit of time for them to like finally like approach me. We got like a product out. We were talking to investors. Nobody believed in us. Like everyone said, what are you doing? This idea that you're doing, it's never going to scale. From like investors to families to friends, to the people in the ecosystem in Detroit. Like nobody was like, nobody would want to touch this problem with a 10-foot pole. And the impact that we made, oh my God, the amount of people that we've touched. So within a 50-mile radius of Metro Detroit, over 500 jobs, over 2,000 hours completed. We were able to find people internships just based on this company that we built. We signed like letters of recommendation to people. We helped out so many people just like make an extra income for whatever they were trying to do. We had one person who was trying to save up to have a car. Another person was just trying to get through school. And we touch so many people with the work that we do. A lot of our customers are, 60 plus and, between the ages of 45 and 65 plus. And, they're getting up there in age and they don't have like a neighborhood kid to come around and help them out. And so the new way of knocking, the new way of going door to door was through this tech that we were building. And so we were helping out a ton of people, maybe clean out condos, maybe clean out their apartments, maybe just, gutters and stuff like that. Whatever it may have been, we've just helped out so many people, and I can't be happier about that.
How did you get the word out? Because a lot of seniors don't really use computers, don't really use phones.
Yeah.
How did you get that? How did you get them connected if you said most of your population is, above 60?
Sergio had a great idea, and he won this one competition called Optimize Wayne, where we bought a bunch. I'm talking like easily 5,000 doorknob hangers. And so we would just, between the three of us, we would do all the jobs, we would answer all the phones, and we would pass out all these flyers and put them on people's doorsteps. And it was just this bright colored orange and blue, flyer that had like a nice gloss in the front and like just talked about ToDoolie. And from that, I mean, the jobs that came through, they were just so overwhelming. We couldn't keep up.
Three of you initially started completing all the tasks before you hired others on.
Oh yeah. We did a small pilot program for like 8 or 9 months in Grosse Pointe. And that went, really well. Just because we had such an overwhelming amount of volume, like just so many people asking for work. And this was something that I didn't even think would be like a huge issue, but clearly it was.
Does ToDoolie connect people who need jobs done with people who are looking for an extra source of income?
So our mission ultimately at the end of the day is personal development for our helpers and also helping people in hyperlocal communities. So it's a dual mission. We want to make sure that when anyone who comes onto the platform, if they need a letter of recommendation, if they need an extra stream of income, if they need literally anything, because they help out our clientele, we will move mountains for them. And whatever their next milestones or stepping stones are, we're here to try to facilitate that by paying them $15 an hour.
I'm kind of thinking of TaskRabbit to be something similar. Have you heard of that?
Actually, the CEO of TaskRabbit, Stacy Brown Philpott, is on our advisory board.
Okay, what a coincidence. I was thinking about that because I haven't used it, but from what I understand, there are websites like that where you can go on there and people will post the jobs they need done.
Absolutely.
So you try to fulfill them. Is that what TaskRabbit does exactly?
Yeah, they've sort of shifted from the time of their inception to where they are now. A lot of like what their work consists of, since they got acquired by IKEA, is assembling a lot of IKEA furniture. But if you talk to the founder, Leia, and this is from the articles that I've read about her, she would go and drive around and fix windows. She would run errands. Like, one of the more funnier errands that I like, and this is one of my favorite stories, is that the reason why they can't hire anyone that's under 21 is because a lot of their jobs consisted of beer runs and liquor runs. So you would basically hire somebody to go and grab your booze for you because, I don't know, maybe you're too drunk or you're at the party and you're, facilitating everybody. So
with TaskRabbit though, users will go on the website and they'll search for jobs that people have put up. If I'm correct.
Yeah, so you set your own price, and so the clients will bid on which worker they want to work with. And so I don't really like that model because you have one happy customer, but say like 10 people bid on that job, you're going to have 9 unhappy people. Mm-hmm. And so the way that we do it is we want to be able to have people have a flexible schedule. I want them to be able to pick whatever jobs they want to do, all based on, maybe they have class, maybe they want to study for exams. I don't want our students, our helpers who come onto the platform to have to sacrifice, studying and getting good grades and, making sure that they have an income.
Is it just the 3 of you still?
We have now officially 7 people on the team.
Do all 7 of you guys, how do I word this? Because I'm trying to figure out how it works. Like, do people who need these jobs, they come to you first and then you put them out onto the website or the app?
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
No, you're probably going to answer the question that I'm asking.
Yeah, so we still do a combination of both. We have our helpers come in and pass out doorknob flyers for us. And of course, we're going to pay them $15 an hour to go flyer their area. And so, we'll have jobs come in from that. And the people who see us, their needs are everywhere in between. You've got, and I hope none of my clients get mad at me by saying this, but you have people in suburban areas where their kids are not going to do the work, and so they need someone to come in and help them out. Or maybe they don't have any kids or grandkids to come and help. They're off at college, or their kids are having kids, and they're busy with that. And so you've got a bunch of older demographic of people who can't do the work by themselves. Other people understand the value of time and money and what it means to just try to get chores done around their house. And so, hiring somebody for $20 an hour is definitely, right up their alley.
Okay, before I get more into how ToDoolie works, I did want to go back and ask, in terms of funding, how has that journey been? Because it seems like the company has grown a lot in the past couple of years. Were there any really big moments for the company?
Oh yeah, I put in $4,000 of my own money just to make sure that the company was alive at one point in time. We got a grant from or we got a uncapped. We did get $75,000 from Wayne State University.
Was this the from that one competition Sergio had won? Was that
No. So the let me go in order, and you can disclose all this information from here on out. In order of like our funding, because it's just been a roller coaster. Optimize Wayne was like $2,000 to just like get us kickstarted. And then, we won a few small competitions here and there, like maybe $100 here, $200 there. We did try a Kickstarter campaign that just completely failed. And there's a whole story behind that, but I digress. We'll keep on moving with the funding. We got $75,000 from Wayne State University at one point in time, and that was a huge win for us. And so we were very, very happy. That took us towards like our next few milestones. So actually, before the $75,000, I got into a veteran pitch competition and I won $7,000, which came in just in the nick of time because we were about to shut down had we not gotten that money. And we've had like previous co-founders like put in money just to keep the business alive, just for no reason, right? And so we got the grant from Wayne State University. So that's $75,000 there. Let's see what's after that. So we graduated the TechStars program not that long ago, and in between there, we've been able to get like Invest Detroit, Precursor Ventures, which is a huge investment firm in San Francisco, who invest in specific platforms like us. So Charles Hudson has just been a huge help in pushing us forward and maximizing our probability of success. And graduating the TechStars program, that's $120,000 right there. And graduating the TechStars program just has a huge compound effect on the network that we've been able to grow. So, I mean, our funding has been, kind of up and down, but we've always managed to just come out on top.
That's amazing. How did the firm in San Francisco, how did the word get to them?
Oh yeah, that's an interesting story. So me, Sergio, and Jose would take an airplane out to like New York or the Bay Area, minimal money. At one point in time, I thought I was gonna have to sleep outside. Like, I only had enough money to buy a sleeping bag, and I was gonna go find a park bench somewhere out in New York and sleep outside, and we would go have our meetings. So you would go and you would schedule these meetings with all these investors, and you would, show them the business model. You would show them, all the data that you've gathered, and you would basically pitch them and say, this is a great opportunity, which in my mind, I think it's always been a great opportunity, and we've always been the underdog, and we keep coming out on top and just proving so many people wrong that, I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful for this company, just really helping as many people as possible. And I think we've really built like a lot of value there.
When you said that you went out to meet these investors, like you guys just found these people online, reached out to them, and were able to set up a meeting?
Yeah. So actually 2 weeks before we went on the fundraising trail, Sergio gives me a Google sheet and he's like, fill this up with as many investors as possible. So, being the, I guess, self-disciplined person that I am, between me and him, we were able to create a list of 400 people who we could talk to, who were sorted by, and I'm not kidding, the role that they're in, their LinkedIn, the phone number or email, and whether or not if we had a connection based on, who they were from our own network on LinkedIn.
I see. So were you able to use like the second connection, third
Exactly.
Connection?
Yeah.
Really useful.
Yeah.
Did you reach out to all 400?
At the end of it, yes. We reached out to just about everybody on that list. And I mean, I think we got like maybe 20 who came through the funnel. And then, towards the end of it where, you could start having like second meetings and stuff like that. And, at the end of it, a lot of people had said, oh, you're too early, or, oh, you're too late. And, if you met these requirements, maybe we would invest in you. And so we had a roadmap. Basically, we had, if we met those milestones, investors don't really have a reason to say no after that, because we met their milestones.
Okay. So different investors asked you to have different requirements in order for them to invest in your company.
Absolutely. We had one investor who said, if you flesh out the product a lot more, then we can have conversations. We had another person who said, we want to see your CAC value very low. And the cost of acquisition. So, like if I spend $2,000 on 10,000 door knob flyers and I pass them out in a certain area, I need to be able to know that my return on investment is worth it. So we'll literally track how many people come onto the platform, book a job, and how many of those people came from those flyers.
And then out of those 400 people, when it came down to it, how many actually put in an investment?
I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was like 2 or 3.
That's difficult, though. Definitely a lot of research, a lot of meetings, pitching your idea, and then when you get down to it, it's always going to be like a handful of people who actually agree to. And did this whole process, because you said you joined in the beginning of 2018. So when all of this happened, what did it take, like a year-ish?
Yeah. Don't tell Sergio, but yeah. I think he already knows, but it does take a long time. You have to, it's a soft skill that you have to learn. There's a way of navigating and a way of speaking. There's a jargon when it comes to investment. Mm-hmm. And ultimately at the end of the day, it's selling. You're selling a portion of your company. So if you are not good at sales, I don't know what to tell you, Mm-hmm. You're just not really gonna, maybe investment's not for you, which is perfectly okay. You don't have to build $1 billion unicorn startup. You can have like a perfectly functioning 6-figure business that still builds value.
Okay, to clarify, because I don't know too much about business, when somebody invests in your company or any company, do you give them a percentage of your business, or are they investing for a different reason?
Yeah, I'm not too keen on the investment thing, but from my understanding of how everything works is that you can set a price on what is called a term sheet, right? And what will happen is, you'll talk to investors every step of the way. So you'll say something along the lines of these are our milestones that we met. We expect the evaluation of the company to maybe be about this much. We know that, and you'll start to have a conversation like, well, how much money are you willing to invest into the company? And it's sort of known, depending on the stage of the company that you're in and the stage of the investment that investment firm invests in. And they'll say it on their website, we invest $250,000 for ideas, or early product before making money, or post making money. And so you'll get into those conversations. You'll say, what is your minimum check size, or what does your check size look like? And then you start having conversations, and it's very much like dating. It's like, okay, what kind of milestones and what do you expect out of the marriage? What do you see that you believe is successful in the company for milestones for me to hit? And then they go, okay, well, I think you could, if you did this and this and this, I'd be interested in investing in your company. But it's not a guarantee. It is not a guarantee yet, until you finally start having conversations about okay, let's get a term sheet going, and I will give you, X amount of this amount of money. You can start raising money based on that, right? So, the term sheet still doesn't mean that the money is in the bank, but you can start telling other investors hey, I got a term sheet from, XYZ firm or venture, and they're willing to invest this much. And so you start trying to build FOMO. you build the hype, you build the brand sort of recognition from there. And, the money will either come in or it won't. And until the money starts hitting your bank, that's when you can start, building some real momentum there.
I guess going back to the earlier question I had, do these investors now have a stake in your company? So if you were to make a profit, they get a portion of it back?
Absolutely, yeah. So there is an expected ROI, right? And you could pay that out in what could be like dividends when a company has IPO'd, or some other way of probably paying the investors. But that's sort of the name of the game, is that they'll always try to invest in, at least 10 companies. So these investors, they go and they basically pitch other people to put in a lot of money into their investment firm, into their funds. And it is their fiduciary responsibility to invest in companies based on their expertise, to bet on these companies that are going to win and return at least a 10x.
That's really exciting to be
Yeah.
able to be a part of something like that.
Yeah.
And once you got all this funding, tell me a couple really big milestones that you've hit since your company
Yeah.
is getting so many investors coming in, and
Yeah, definitely. I think a milestone. The milestones, and this is just a great idea for anybody starting a business. Go to your local university and go see what their computer science senior capstone project looks like, and go and pitch them, because they will build your platform for free. It may not work. It may not, or it could work, depending on the school that you go to. But on the chances that it's a working platform and it's very minimal, and it's just something to just kind of get you going, that was just a huge milestone for us. And so I was able to convince, my professor, before I even did my capstone project, to do ToDoolie. So I had how many engineers? I had 8 or 9 developers starting to just go to work. And I would just stay up for most nights, just like trying to work with them. And then like a year after that, I did my senior capstone project to graduate with my bachelor's in computer science. And I worked on ToDoolie, and we built a mobile app, and we built a dashboard to like manage everything. And then after that, we got some funding, and I was able to hire a developer. We hired our first employee, Mark Schmidt, who worked at Mozilla. He worked at Dual Security, which are huge companies. They both scaled to like $billion companies. So they're unicorns. And so, he was able to help us out with some expertise there. And then eventually I hired Hugh Hamilton, our full stack developer. And then we got our back end developer, Dan Litford, who I found working at FedEx, because that would, again, up and down with funding. So I had to go work at FedEx to make ends meet, just to keep the company alive. And then we went to Techstars.
Wow. What was the name of that bet? What was the name?
DTX.
Okay, that was DTX. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
DTX is like so the DTX is like the pre-accelerator, and then Techstars is an accelerator. Is how I think about it. So DTX was our introductory course to like, how do you even start a business? And then Techstars is like less than 1% of people who apply get in. So it's very, very, very competitive. And you have to go through an entire interview process. You have to, pitch people. And at the time, Sergio had to go back to Chile because he's an immigrant here, and so now he's over here on an O1 visa, so he doesn't have to worry about it. But at the time, he had to pay for classes just to stay in the country, and so we did the entire pitch, virtually and in person. So it was a hybrid model. So me and Jose flew to Chicago. We pitched the people who were there, and Sergio pitched virtually over Chile on Zoom.
Wow. And then you mentioned like graduating from that program.
And we graduated. Yeah. So we are caught up to 2020 now. So we just graduated the Techstars program in like March.
Wow. So if somebody were to want to get a job done on ToDoolie, do they go on? Is it like a website and an app both?
Yeah. So the thing that I'm learning a lot more is that the more that you can decentralize your product, the better it is for you overall. So I'm sure you probably feel it, and maybe your listeners who are listening probably feel the exact same way, but you don't want a ton of apps on your phone, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's pretty much cluttered, and the app thing is like very overdone. And so the way that I'm thinking about it, and the way that I'm trying to steer ToDoolie, is that on top of having a mobile app, you can go to www. I hope you don't mind me plugging myself in here. www.ToDoolie.com. That's ToDoolie.com, and you can book a job right on our website. eventually I want to be able to have, Google and Siri just, get your
Integrate.
helper by just like doing by voice commands.
It's awesome. So you just like set up an account, and then what are the requirements when if I were to go post a job on there, what would I need to be putting up?
Yeah, so all you need is, and we're still working on the booking process, but as of right now, what it looks like is you set a time and a date on when you want somebody to come over. You tell me how many people you want. You tell me how many hours you think the job might take. Normally, we ask to overestimate, and then we also ask to try to book at least 2 days in advance. And then you just give a description of what you need done. And I go on my dashboard and I watch all the jobs come through. And I'm
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, it's okay.
I was just going to ask, like, it could be anything inside your home, it could be anything outside, or it could be doing any errands or picking things up, like anything.
Yeah. We've had all ranges of jobs, from shining brass to setting up Christmas lights, or maybe your Halloween decorations. Maybe you need to organize your garage, or you just need to clean it out because it's just gotten too cluttered. Maybe you have some weeds that are just there. The thing that we can't do is provide the equipment for you. So the only thing that we ask is, try to have like the lawnmower and like the shears and stuff like that ready for our helpers, but they'll show up ready to clock in, clock out, and do great work.
Okay, and then if I were to go on there wanting to be a helper, what would I see on the dashboard?
Yeah, so our helper, so the website's getting revamped. We're working with a school in Chicago, which is where the TechStar program was for us. But we're working with Flatiron to completely revamp the website. So as of right now, all you have to do is just click I'm looking for work, or like we're hiring. It's a little button on the website, and you can read a little bit more about like what we do and how we do it. But if you download the app, we have an entire streamlined onboarding process. So you watch a couple videos. It tells you like all about our company. You take a test, see whether or not if you're qualified to be a part of this great community. And then all you have to do is just input your card information, pass a background check, which is a very light background check. Not a lot of 21-year-olds have been involved in, robbery or arson or anything like that. And then once you've connected your bank account, you go and you just start picking jobs. And we do a pretty good job at trying to weed out the people who may not work on the platform, but I mean, it's really, really simple. It's super, super simple. I can't imagine anybody not being able to do it. And you just get paid.
Oh, and so is there, like, say I wanted a job done in 2 days, but how do you ensure that people who need the job done on a certain day get connected with somebody to do it? Because what if there's people out there looking for jobs and somehow somebody doesn't pick a job that needs to be done like today or tomorrow? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that happens a lot. That's why we have our dashboard, which is like something that we kept in mind while we were originally building it. So so what we're doing is we're moving away from like all of the manual work that we have to do, and moving towards more like automation, which is like basically Uber and Lyft. Like, you don't really have to do much. Code really like does everything. And there's pros and cons to how you move in that direction. But I wake up every morning. I wake up at 9 a.m. I've got a phone software program that'll ring, which you've already experienced. But it'll ring and it'll probably be a customer. And I look on my dashboard and I look at what the jobs look like the next day. And then I look at the job description, make sure it's very descriptive. I see how many people are who have accepted the job. And we've got, my co-founder, Jose, he goes and he starts talking to a lot of students, trying to recruit them basically, or trying to tell them like, hey, there's this job available. Are you available? And so we're trying to automate a lot of what that looks like instead of us being in the middle.
Oh, I see. So you constantly monitor it to make sure that these jobs do get fulfilled. But along with that, people out on there looking for jobs can see if there's a job available next week or any other day, and they can book themselves for it.
Exactly.
Okay. And then when you say automate, are you you're trying to develop some kind of code to just automatically be able to check these things?
Yeah. So I'll give you like an example of like what our automation looks like. So, because we want to make sure that the payment happens correctly, right? And people are clocking in and clocking out. The thing that people probably wouldn't realize is that what if you forget to clock out?
Right.
What if it's the next day and you clock out and then you're suddenly charged, like $500 for your job? That can happen. And so the way that I do it is I just call people like, hey, how'd your job go? Did everything go well? Can I charge your card? It's this much, and they say yes or they say no. And if they say no, it's usually like, oh, well, the clock in, clock out time is wrong. So then I got to go over to Jose and tell him like, hey, can you talk to the student and ask him like, what the story was, what seemed to have happened here?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I was going to say there are probably issues where you have to manually make sure of these things, right? So definitely smart to want to automate these. Another question I had was, what was I going to say? Oh, who determines the prices? Because I don't think you mentioned, like, if I were to pop up, I don't think you mentioned that I would have to, put the price up. I have to put the description, how many people I want, but who determines that?
Yeah. So at first, in the beginning, when we did our pilot, it was $15 an hour and we paid our students $12. But, as you learn, as you get better, you just kind of throw a price out there in the beginning. And in the Techstars program, the one thing that they always harped on was you're always charging too little for, your product or your service. Like, don't be afraid to charge as much money as you think it might be worth, because that's at the end of the day, that's your time, that's your effort, that's your energy, and you're never going to get that back. And so if the product or the service is building that much value, I don't know if you know anything about economics.
A little, not too much.
Okay, short economic lesson for you and your listeners here. So when you set a price, there's like a perceived good, right? There's a perceived value on this. I could come over and just be like, I think this flower is worth like $5, and you could be like, no, I would probably pay like $7 for that. Mm-hmm. And so what do you price it at, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you price it too high, you'll build a black market, right? People will go around or like maybe try to find a competitor where it's cheaper. So we were charging $15 an hour and paying students $12. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of our clients were literally telling us, you're charging way too little. Like, I can't believe, and that's probably why it was so overwhelming for us, was because we undercutted the competition by like, what was it? It was like 2/3 of the price. Right. On just about like every type of like landscapers pricing, and so we were.
Sorry.
You're good.
I just wanted to say, like, I'm interjecting here, but I was like, when you said 15, I did think up, because whenever you think of asking somebody else to like come over and get the job done for you, any other company, like, I don't know, the lead man, anything, it's so expensive. It's like
very expensive.
You don't find, like, unless like a family friend who does these things, you pay them like what, 15, 20 an hour. But if it's an actual company, like you guys are an actual company, I would not expect 15 an hour. I'm definitely, what you're saying, like, that's probably why it was so overwhelming to begin with, because you definitely had a very, very low price.
So
that was word of mouth. It brought in a lot of people, though.
It did. Yeah. And that really just helped. Just trying to like, just keep the business going. That's just get it going, get it to a steady state. And so we raised our prices. A lot of people got mad with us. We were very, very hesitant to raise our prices to $20 an hour. But I mean, I'm so glad that we did, because at the end of the day, we need to be able to like keep our lights on. We need to be able to like pay our helpers who are going to come through and do work for our clients. And also at the end of the day, it really just aligned with our mission, which was financial stability, financial independence for a lot of our helpers. And if we're gonna try to build a company that's gonna have this type of value out in the world, I want to make sure that I'm paying them what they're worth. And to me personally, if I could pay them $18 an hour, I would, and only make $2 on the job. But we're not quite there yet, and we have like features and stuff like that we're going to be building onto the platform, like gamification, that will really help with identifying who the veterans on the product are, and actually be able to pay them $18 an hour like we want.
Oh, like volunteer or helpers who've been there for longer?
Yeah. So the more jobs that you do, the better your rating, the more the better job that you're doing, based on like a characteristic score. None of this like sort of ambiguous, like, you know, 1 to 5, like 5-star rating method. This would be like a rating system, like really based on like who you are as a person and whether or not if you're a hard worker.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're personable, you know, if you do a really great job on the platform, and you show up on time and stuff like that, and you do work, you know, you get paid more. And you should get paid more. Like that should incentivize you to want to have to stay on the platform even longer.
Right.
And we want to keep those type of people on the platform.
That's really smart. That to be able to incentivize people who've been there for longer, because somebody who's been working with ToDoolie for like say 3 years versus somebody who just joined, it definitely makes sense to increase the price, right? The longer you're there and the more work you're doing. I think that's a great incentive. Also, so I know that we could definitely go so much more in depth. But it would take us a long time, and I did set it to 6:30 for an hour, but your story was so interesting. We did go over.
I've got time. I've got time. No worries.
And wanted to ask, was there anything before I move to like where you want to see ToDoolie in the future? Was there anything that I might have missed in the overview of this journey?
No, there's a lot of like there's a lot of funny memories. There's a lot of like hardship that I could talk about. There's a lot of doubt. The doubt, endless amounts of doubt. But you know, for the listeners who are listening right now, you know, if the one thing that I do want to say is that if they have ever had any idea of starting a company and this is something that they want to do, or maybe you're not really sure, I cannot stress enough, do as many different things as you can until you finally land on that one thing where you just wake up every morning and you are just so motivated. Because I will work 9 a.m. till 2 a.m., go to sleep, wake up, rinse, repeat, work on the weekends. It doesn't feel like work to me anymore. Like this is the most enjoyable thing that I could be doing with my life.
That's amazing. Not many people can say that. What was one of the biggest obstacles that you faced in this startup? And then I'll get to like, and after this, actually, I was going to ask, where would you like to see ToDoolie in the next couple years? So
I've had a lot of obstacles, and like I said, I think the story is like definitely one of an underdog, and I definitely have a chip on my shoulder, and you know, the funding's always like hard, right? But I think the one hardship that seems to always be constant is when you have to just deal with so many different diverse type of people in your company, and you really have to learn how to navigate managing relationships and managing your conversations with everyone on the team, co-founders, people you hire, interns. You know, you want to make sure that their experience is just the same way that my customers have an experience, the helpers and the clients who want jobs, the people who I hire are having their own experiences. And I'll give you an example. One of the things that was probably one of the hardest things to do was to, you know, talk to my co-founders very candidly. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's kind of hard when you have ego in the way, mm-hmm. when you want to have like a setting where you can like vulnerably talk to people. And we're 3 Latin founders, right? So machismo is like just all over the place, right? We have such a pride in masculinity, and being able to just drop those barriers was definitely like such a huge challenge. And I'm glad that we were able to get over those hurdles, right? And even now with the team, right? Like I really want to stress that being able to candidly talk to people is probably the best skill that you can have, because you cut through all the bullshit at the end of the day. Like there's no fluff. It's just you and the other person, and you resolve your issues and you just move on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. That's true. Communication for sure. Straightforward communication is always important. In terms of I guess any like major setbacks with with ToDoolie?
There's been a lot of times where I couldn't pay my employees. Does that does that count? It seemed to be a major setback.
Yeah.
A lot of our so like a lot of the conversations that we had one conversation with an investor in particular who said that they wanted to be the only person on our cap table. And a cap table is just basically like a list of our investors. So they wanted to be the only person. They were going to help our CEO with his visa issue, and they were going to invest $300,000.
Wow.
Our problem there was we had already gotten that grant from Wayne State. And there was really nothing that we could do. And they said, well, take the 75,000 and, from the amount of money that we would have invested and give it back to them and get them off the cap table. And ethically, we didn't feel like we should do that. And so, we were leveraging our conversations with, building that narrative and trying to get more investment. But then, our $300,000 term sheet they pulled out. And I had to tell the people who I started hiring that we actually don't have a year of runway. We actually only have 3 months. That was definitely a huge major setback. And the Kickstarter event was a huge setback, just ethically for us as well, and morally. We could have closed the Kickstarter from one person who would have given us the amount of money, and everything would have been great, and we would have gotten, $5,000, $10,000 in money that we raised, because we were trying to raise 20. But we said, you know what, we don't feel like we actually earned it. Right. You know what I mean? And instead of having that one person invest, $10,000 to like get us over the edge and complete the Kickstarter, we just let it fail.
I don't know what I'm trying to say. I see what you mean. Not that I even have anywhere close to the same experience, but when you actually put the effort to get something versus when you kind of just get it way easily or get it for free, you definitely feel like I put in the effort and I deserve it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there are probably like so many tiny setbacks too in between. I just wanted to kind of get an overview of any of the major ones that you remembered, which very interesting stories. But you guys always seem like you made it to the top. That's really exciting. And then looking forward, like in the next couple of years, where do you see this going?
So 2021, spring 2021, Atlanta, here we come. So we're going to be launching in Atlanta.
Launching as in?
Launching ToDoolie services in Atlanta.
Wait, have you guys already like quote unquote launched in Detroit, or have you not formally launched at all yet?
No, we've launched in Michigan. We've been operating in Michigan, but what you want to do, and a lot of businesses usually do this, is you want to make sure that you really know what type of service you're providing, because you never know, right? Like I talked about in the beginning, we were doing invoicing at first. I could have sold this to like a ton of gas stations, or maybe like universities that don't have like invoicing, a solution to invoicing. And it evolved to helping out your community. And who knows what it could potentially evolve to in the future. I've got like an idea of where I want to go.
Right.
And it's definitely very, very ambitious. It's huge. It's sort of like an Amazon type of thing. But you really never know. And so where I want to go, and I think my co-founders would probably agree with me, is being the pipeline where McDonald's, Domino's, H&M, these retail places, those aren't your first jobs anymore. Why would you want to go work at McDonald's and get paid $9 an hour? That's not livable. That's terrible. I would never want to do that. And this is coming from, someone who's 27 who has had over 27 jobs. It's not sustainable in the long run, and you get a lot of gray hairs from it, trust me. And so what I'm thinking is, with this gamification, with, this sort of payment system that we'll set up on the platform, you eventually will be able to find, who the veterans are on ToDoolie, and then eventually start having industry leaders come in and take first dibs on internships. And I've basically verified like who the hardest workers are, right? And so it's sort of opening up that pipeline. So some people could probably think of us as like a staffing company, but I think of us more of a community and more of a like personal development type of company.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to help people grow at the end of the day and eventually expand as far out. So I sometimes have these dreams on what ToDoolie looks like 20 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically I wake up and I use my fingerprint to sign a contract that says I want all this work done. And I just have a bunch of people who just come over and they like do my laundry, they wash my dishes, they mow my lawn. and in return, what they get from it is quantified, work experience. Like instead of just being like, oh, I'm Billy and I worked, and I did landscaping over the summer. It's now, oh, I'm Billy. I have all of these ratings. I've done 500 hours on these specific type of, job categories. And this is like, my basically letter of recommendation and my, resume from ToDoolie and a stamp of approval that says I'm a hard worker, hire me.
That's so cool. Actually, another thing that comes into mind is when I was in university, and I don't know if this is the same as in the States because I went to school in Ontario, but we have 40 hours of required community service.
Yeah.
For volunteering in high school. A lot of students end up struggling to find out like, where can we volunteer? I'm in 12th grade. I can't graduate without these volunteering hours.
Yeah. Exactly.
And a lot of times you have to be 16 to volunteer at certain places, and you have to go through like a lot of people volunteered at the hospital, the Humane Society, but you have to go through this entire process, and then sometimes they don't even have openings for you for like a couple months.
But
this
I know the struggle. Yeah.
So this could be another cool platform where for students who want only volunteer hours, they could go and volunteer, and they would not be getting paid for their work, but it can be counted towards, volunteer work.
It's funny that you say that because we actually did try volunteer work on our platform, and
really?
That was one of the ideas that we were gonna try. So and I was just talking to some people on our team about this,
mm-hmm.
and this is sort of my idea. I'm very ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
I want to try to help as many people as possible, and so my solution to homelessness, while at the same time area beautification, was putting volunteer jobs on the platform where maybe the clients could make a donation towards a job in their area to beautify it, whatever it may look like. And homeless people could probably go on the platform, download the app, and pick up these jobs, and they just get paid for cleaning up these certain areas. So I would work with whatever state or city or entity of government,
right?
And they could have just like people go around just posting these volunteer type jobs on the platform. And, people can go ahead and like contribute money to just improving the city of Detroit or improving a certain park or just cleaning up trash and stuff like that. So I took a lot of influence from like how Japan sort of does like their management of waste and stuff like that. And I thought it was a really cool idea to like try to integrate that into the system. But of course, this is like maybe 5 years down the line.
Right. But that's amazing because you're also able to provide jobs to people who are homeless if they're able to get in touch with like the technology or able to get to like access to a computer, right?
That's sort of like
they could find jobs in the area. That would definitely be very, very cool. Wow, that's so ambitious. I'm so excited.
It's very, very ambitious. Thank you.
So okay, one last thing. Why Atlanta specifically? Because Atlanta's like nowhere right near Michigan. How did that come up?
So there's been a lot of like things that we identified. So like seasonality, right? So we do a lot of yard work. We do a lot of event type of staffing jobs. So like, weddings, events at like Wayne State University or Tech Town. We do a lot of, what other jobs? Cleaning, general cleaning. We can't do like any professional type of cleaning, but we can do like some general, like, like clean my sidewalk or like, can you sweep the kitchen or something? A lot of like, moving, lots of like furniture moving, like I need to get this furniture or these things from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Oh, right. Seasonality, like you can't do that in the winter.
Right.
And so what we did was we took all of this data, all this aggregated data from my pilot program, and we went on the internet and scoured a bunch of data from like open databases that you can access. And so this is like the U.S. Labor Statistic Bureau. This is like state by state, like open databases on like how many hours people spend on cleaning up their house and stuff like that. Like that's a thing that you can access and do a ton of research on. And so what we did was we created a lookalike audience based on who lives in Detroit. Like what do our customers look like? And so we identified 80 counties with a penetration potential, and we found out that Atlanta has the geographical area that looks the most to Detroit, with the same demographic of ethnicity in Detroit and the same suburban type of geographical data that we've been able to scrape from like Zillow and stuff like that.
Right.
And so that just seemed like the natural place to go. So it'll be Atlanta, then Philadelphia, then Chicago, then everywhere else.
Come to
in the
Canada?
United States. Yeah, Canada. If I could go international, that'd be wonderful.
Wow. That's really interesting. Yeah, I was just wondering what made you pick Atlanta, with respect to time, because we will be going on 2 hours. I would love to hear more, but I know you also have stuff to do, and I did say an hour. But what would your parting message be to students in university who have that entrepreneurial mindset but don't really know what they want to be doing?
I would say, look, if I can do it, and just statistically, I have everything against me. Like I should have gotten somebody pregnant at 15. Statistically, I shouldn't be in college, let alone graduated. I should be working some sort of manual labor job, just because that's just what Latino people do in the United States, doing landscaping or like being a construction worker. By now I should have a family technically, and not really much progress of anything else. And I think that I'm proof that when you put your mind to it, when you ignore the statistics, when you surround yourself with like really great people who are much more smarter than you, when you surround yourself with people who are so ambitious, and you just spend every single waking moment just taking away all the dumb decisions. Like I don't care what I wear in the morning, I just put on my ToDoolie shirt. I cut down on the decisions, and you just really just grind and think about what you do from a scientific method type of standpoint, where you you come up with your problem, you experiment, you observe, you document what those experiments yielded, and then you make a new hypothesis and say whether or not if the solution that you came up fixes the problem. If you do that every single day and you just work at it, I mean, you'll get there. You'll get there. Like it doesn't matter what you want to do, but if this is what you want to do it, because you will not regret it.
Yeah. That reminded me of Mark Zuckerberg always wearing that like gray t-shirt.
Yeah.
You're right. Cut down the decisions. That is a great message, and it's going to be a long episode. I'm very excited.
I'm glad that you threw in a thing to learn out of all of this. I think that's going to be really helpful to your listeners.
So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very excited to air this, and I had a great time listening to your journey.
Yeah, I had a wonderful time talking to you as well. Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning into today's episode, and we'll see you next time.